Killers of the Flower Moon is written by David Gran in 2017. It was kind of given to Martin Scorsese as a book, and he loved this. And it's a fascinating story as it looks into the murders that are happening on the Osage Nation in Oklahoma in the 1920s, primarily because the Osage Nation was given this land, but it was worthless when it came to farming and all these different things, and the federal government gave it to them. But interestingly enough, under the surface, it was rich with oil deposits, and so they became one of the wealthiest populations or people groups in America. It wasn't just within the Native American community. It was actually in America. And so it's this fascinating interchange of those that were come from the First Nations background having all the wealth, and those who are trying to get that from them, and this being specifically some of those others from an American background. So it's a really interesting story. I'd love to hear what your thoughts were kind of traveling through this, because it is 3.5 hours long. It's quite a commitment to be able to kind of get to in cinemas, even though it will be coming out on Apple in probably the next few weeks.
In a modern day context, there's obviously a lot of conversations around how we treat Indigenous populations, how we look at the transfer of wealth across generations and all of this sort of stuff. And when you bring a time in history to life where attitudes were a bit different to what they are now, or where things that are pushed back against now were at their height, watching that on screen being depicted by actors that you really respect, and like you say, Lily Gladstone and all of this sort of stuff, like some of the things that Leonardo Dicaprio says in his character, like, you know, it's his character, and same with Robert De Niro, but you just go, my goodness, there's something so uncomfortable seeing some of the way these leading men, leading characters, leading voices in this movie spoke about some of the other people on screen, the other cultures and stuff. Right. And I found that, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a shift anyway to see an Indigenous culture as those that are like, that people are begging from them and all of these sorts of things, like, as wrong. It's like, it's hard to express because we're so used to seeing certain cultural groups represented as the leaders in society. When you see that flipped on its head, it is a bit of a challenge to the audience to go, imagine, like, and this is true history, but it's like, imagine if the world looked a little different. Like, imagine if the people that we see in power weren't the people that we see in power, and other people held that. If different cultural groups held that, what would that look like? And I think there's a conversation around that that's prompted through this movie.
Oh, I think so. I think that that's actually a great way to kind of set it up and looking at it, especially because you're still looking at the human condition in so many ways that it doesn't matter as far as who kind of ends up being in the position of power, that many times that they actually are still struggle to find what is right and what is wrong. I even found it interesting to even see kind of the depiction of even their faith, because you kind of see the insertion of the Native American kind of positions of kind of looking at the earth and the value of that, but then also many of them were actually from a Catholic background or actually went to church on a regular basis. And that was even one of the kind of the sticking points at the initial meetup between Lily and Ernest was, oh, so what is your faith? And, you know, they're kind of like going, I think I'm Catholic, you know, kind of that sort of thing.
But you don't show up at church. Like, it's the actual old school flirt to convert happening right there.
Like, for me, Oppenheimer, I actually was like, okay, I made it. I mean, I think I was like going, okay, 3 hours. Not that I want to watch it over and over and over again, but I thought I was in it. This one, I'm like going, Marty, I think maybe we could have cut a little bit here and really made it a little bit more accessible. And it'll probably mean that some people will wait till it comes out on streaming before they actually engage with it. But I don't know. I mean, is it one that you would put on the top of your list for the year? Is it like an Academy Award nominee? What do you think?
Look, I think some of the performances could easily like earn an award, and maybe there's a filmmaking recognition in there in some respects, but it's not one of my top movies for the year. I just think stronger stories have been told. There's like Oppenheimer, if I had to pick between, you know, the 3 hour or so movies that have been available, like Oppenheimer definitely for me comes before this one. And I do think though, like that said, it takes something as a director to be able to even approach a project that's going to be as long as this one was and hold people's attention and develop a story over that time frame. And so there's certainly something to be said for the way that Martin Scorsese and his team are able to do that. Like, there are moments where you're really with it and they're building the tension, and like it's like a well-written piece of music that's going to have ebbs and flows to keep you listening. but I don't know that it did it to the point where it needed to be that long, but the performances were great. And some of the, conversations it brings up are really worth, I think, tackling.
Oh, I think so. I think that that's what really stood out for me too. I think it's the performances. If Lily Gladstone doesn't win, I have a feeling that she will.
Oh,
I think
she should.
Leonardo's been there. I think Martin's been there. I think they've gotten for some of their better roles. Even though this was a great role for Leonardo DiCaprio, I think that he really did a great job with, as well as Robert De Niro. But I'm with you. I probably would say that some of the discussion points on marriage, on a house divided, I think that's who do you trust and who do you allow into your house and who do you allow to influence your life is just a huge topic. I mean,
Yeah, and grief as well. Grief was massive in there.
just heartbreaking, and that's probably where Martin Scorsese takes it to the next level in regards to really showing that side of it. But then on top of it, how the justice. I mean, just how can justice be done when such atrocities have occurred? And I think that that's where we do have solutions in what we can see in the Bible and even what we can see and understand from God's story and looking at justice can prevail. But really, unfortunately, sometimes man doesn't always get that right.
Very well said. So we'll see if any of you decide to watch it, you'll have to give us your thoughts and tell us how you went with not just the length of the movie, but the whole experience of it.
Yeah. I think definitely. Would you put it on your top 10 list if you even got along to see it and you were able to make it all the way through? We'd love to know if you'd make it on your top 10 list, because I think that Martin Scorsese kind of sets a whole standard. I mean, you can see over the past few years, he's definitely kind of come out saying he's really kind of coming up against what we have in our modern cinemas as far as kind of taking on the Marvel and all these various things. But I do love the fact that he loves cinema. He loves the voice that it gives, and I think that he really provides that for us. So I think, I'm with you. It probably wasn't one of my top 10s, but it definitely was a great one as far as performances and also discussion points.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, we're at the end of our episode, and until next time, get out to the cinema, enjoy a good movie, maybe have some popcorn, and then join us for the chat on the next episode of The Watch List.